A cop planting drugs on citizens for years. Planting drugs one by one, bust after bust. Okay, let's put up his mug shot. He's been caught. Put his mug shot up. Take a good look at this guy, okay? This is a former cop in Jacksonville, spent his whole 2-year police career planting drugs on innocent people during traffic stops. He literally became a cop just to be corrupt. You gotta think about how deep this is. That means that he knew when he was applying for the job that this was an industry he could be corrupt on the inside of. He knew as a professional police officer, he could find a safe haven for his corruption. His name is Zachary Wester, 28 years of age. He was sentenced to 12.5 years for his crimes. Put his picture up again. I want people to see this, okay? All right. He actually seems like a nice guy when he talks. I mean, this guy was deadly with his charisma and, well, I'm so sorry. We're gonna have to take you to jail. And his victims are claiming, no, that's not mine. I don't know where you got that from. I'm so sorry, I gotta take you in for this. He planted it. Let me give you some background. Nearly 3 years after former North Florida deputy Zachary Wester first faced suspicions that he secretly planted drugs on innocent motorists, jurors convicted him on numerous charges in the crooked cop case. Wester was found guilty on 19 counts involving 3 of his alleged victims. He had more, by the way, but they had good evidence on those. And not guilty on 48 other counts involving the other 9 victims, not because he didn't do it, but because the evidence had to be weighed in a particular way in court, and they didn't have all of the evidence they had on these others. A jury found Wester guilty on counts involving Teresa Odom, Joshua Emanuel, and Stephen Van, all of whom were charged with possession of meth after they were pulled over for a simple traffic stop. Here are clips. I got some clips from the body camera, okay? These clips have no sound, but here are some of the clips, all right? This is literally this cop planting drugs. His body camera's on. Now, what he tried to do in some of these cases, after he planted the drugs, he would then explain to the motorist what he's found. But what he tried to do is cuff the drugs inside of his glove or set his hand a particular way to where his camera would not catch it. He wasn't smart enough to get away with it. His camera actually caught him in ways that he did not think the camera did. So he tried to trick the camera. He tried to trick law enforcement in general. He tried to trick the prosecutor, but he could not trick the jury. The jury saw right through it, saw exactly what he had done, saw the placement of the drugs, and also the reports that he made proclaiming it was evidence. These motorists had their lives turned upside down because of a cop who was aware of what he could get away with. He knew what he could do. He did it for years before they caught up to him, all right? Now, here's the reality. The reason why they started to look into this guy is because, and I'm gonna say it, because his victims were white. If his victims would have been black or brown, you think they would have investigated him because a black male said, oh my goodness, the drugs in my car, they weren't there before the cop pulled me over. You think that would have been enough? Okay. The charges related to a dozen victims and traffic stops that occurred on July 4, 2017, after Wester had been on the job for more than a year, to June 7, 2018, when he arrested a woman who told him that her only vices were cigarettes and Dr. Pepper, okay? Some of Wester's alleged victims had clean records, but others did not, making them easy marks for the deputy. One person was on drug offender probation when Wester pulled her over. Another handed him his Florida Department of Corrections ID because he had just gotten out of prison and did not have a driver's license. He targeted these people. Wester was sentenced to 12.5 years in state prison in connection with 19 guilty verdicts handed down in May. They ranged from felonies such as racketeering, official misconduct, fabricating evidence, and false imprisonment to misdemeanors such as possession of controlled substances and drug paraphernalia and perjury, all right? Here's some more background about this cat. Wester grew up in Sneeze, the son of a prominent law enforcement officer, Robert Wester. So his daddy is a cop who ran the sheriff's office drug task force for 15 years and ran for sheriff in 2008. Zachary Wester got his first law enforcement job with the Liberty County Sheriff's Office in 2015, but was forced out 9 months later amid allegations of sexual misconduct. Now, according to the narrative, the reason why this guy did all of this is because he wanted to become part of the drug task force. And there are some people who will think, oh, he just wanted to please his daddy. No, he wanted to become a member of the drug task force so he can get some real money, so he can engage in some real corruption, so he can really make some moves for his corrupt ass career. Jackson, what are your thoughts here?
I think that you nailed it right on the head. And I think that the focus on this is that since it's an old and routine and standard practice that happens in law enforcement, the big question obviously is why. Now, since his victims were white, this isn't only a racially tinged thing, but it helps to propel their careers. Padding your numbers, you become the person within the precinct, within the organization that has more authority, who has more pull, because you're seen as more efficient. Even if everyone knows that your methods are corrupt, you're seen as the person who gets the job done. You're seen as the person who knows how to do things and who knows the ropes and the person who to follow. And so that gives you more, kind of managerial authority within an organization. And as you said, that could lead him to the higher task force where he can go after bigger drug busts, where they can then, as we know, do other corrupt things like take product and sell it, or just take cash and keep it, as happens every single day, especially in minority communities where just in general, there's not as much concern for, who the victims are.
Yeah, this cop is now in prison. He had more victims than what he was convicted of. And believe me, there are other victims who simply did not come forward.